Hey y'all, welcome back. My name is Brandy. I have a stack of books I want to talk to you guys about. So if you want to see what I've been reading in January, then just keep watching. For the month of January, my goal was to read kind of like unhinged women doing crazy things. If you've been around BookTube, you know it's called like the good for her genre. One thing I'll tell you about my list over here, my little book stack, is that I am an avid library user. I do not buy into the consumerism of buying books that I know good and doggone well I'm not going to read again. So you're never going to see shelves and shelves of books behind me. I have been a reader my entire life. So I was reading before it was popular. I do not read for the pretty covers. I read because I love a good story. So I'm going to talk to you guys about some of my books. I have my notes over here from my Goodreads. And we're just gonna get started. So this first book that I got, Nearly All the Men in Lagos Are Mad, is basically a harrowing account, 13 harrowing accounts of women in Lagos, Nigeria trying to find love. The book is definitely hard to read by the end. In the beginning, you're wholly entertained because you're like, wow, this is about to be like the very first lines are very good. I'm just gonna read you the first sentence. One night, you will calmly put a knife to your husband's and promise to cut it off. It will scare him so much that the next day, he will call his family members for a meeting in the house. He will not call your family members, but you will not care. You won't need them. So, off the jump, this lady is getting ready to dismember her husband. And you're like, oh Lord, what has he done? What is going on? Why would she do this? And from there, the stories are just as entertaining. I think I read this book in one day, maybe 2 days. And so it was really good in that it showcased just how terrible some men can be. I mean, every man in this book was terrible. And that's a bit of a qualm that I had. Until the very last story where there was one man that had some redeeming qualities, every single last man in this book is terrible. So this is your book. If you're going through a breakup and you want to believe that every man on the planet is terrible, just as terrible as the man that you're dumping or who has dumped you, this is a great book. For the rest of us, it's a little much. And by the end, you'll be like, dang, that was depressing. Like, I really don't even know if I can recommend this book. Just a lot of R-rated content that I was not expecting. And I don't even feel like it added to the stories really that much. I just felt like it was there for smut's sake. I'm not really into that at all. The stories in and of themselves really do just get to the meat of every single bad man that you've ever known. And so I have to recommend this because I was entertained. I gave the book 4 stars and I think that it's worth reading. The next book I'm going to talk about is a book that I gave 5 stars. I think I may recalibrate that a bit, but it's called The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. And it explores, it's more of that, well, good for her, genre of feminism, rage against the patriarchy type of book. So this book follows a Korean American family, Jiwon, her sister, and her mother. And Jiwon is the main character of the book. She starts the book by talking about kind of her past and how they come to live in California. And her, very early in the book, her mother is going through a terrible trauma because her father has left suddenly. And her mother is completely depressed, sitting by the door, waiting for this man to come back. He doesn't come back. And, you know, Jiwon is kind of feeling enraged that her father would do this to them and leave them kind of high and dry. And very soon on, early in the book, Jiwon comes home from school one day and her mother is there all excited talking about a man that she met named George at the grocery store that she works at. They're like an item at this point. And she's like, what? Like, dad just left a few months ago and you already have a boyfriend? This is crazy. Well, the guy is a walking, talking stereotype for every disgusting man you've ever met in your life, okay? White man who fetishizes Asian women. He does some reprehensible things in the book, like oogling her younger sister, who is 15 years old, as well as going to Thailand. And you know what happens sometimes there, especially with sickos like him. And so the book is basically following the outrage that Jiwon feels towards this man. She hates him, rightfully so. And there's also a subplot of Ji-won being in college and meeting this basically performative white guy who has all the right words in terms of being a feminist, but actually is like a stalker. I'm not going to tell you too much about the book because I want you to go read it. But the book is very, very, very good. In the face of the onslaught of all of this terrible stuff that has happened to her, it kind of sparks her like unraveling, like mental unraveling. She goes crazy. And from the front cover, you can see, and from the back, she gets a taste for a particular body part. And yeah, she starts doing crazy stuff. I thought the book was going to be scarier than it was. It wasn't really necessarily scary at all. I mean, this is my first body horror book but based on this book, it wasn't really scary, more gross. It was a little hard for me to suspend my disbelief. I had quite a few problems with the book, especially the ending of the book. It just felt really unrealistic. I don't know. It was very easy to read. I read the book in like 2 days. I enjoyed it in a way that I did not enjoy the next book I'm going to talk about. So yeah, I recommend that you pick it up. And if you want a book that you can fly through, that's really good, that's kind of rage against the patriarchy and highlights some of the worst among us in terms of the male species, then I would say pick it up. The next book that I read this month was called The Bandit Queens by Perini Schroff. I did not like this book. And I hate to ask you, as my baby says, but I really did it. So this book follows the main character. His name is Geeta. Geeta is living in India in a rural village, and everybody thinks she's a witch because her husband disappeared one day, never to be seen again, and has left Geeta to kind of be the pariah in the village. So she lives for 5 years on her own before the story really takes place. And she has all of these preconceived notions about what everybody thinks about her based off of some things that she overhears. Like, for example, a child saying, "Are you going to turn me into like a warthog or whatever?" As I'm editing this and forgot to mention the whole point. So basically, Geeta is called upon by the women in the village to help kill their husbands, who are awful, terrible men. And so she is pretty much placed in the position of people thinking that she killed her husband. Help me, or I'm going to blackmail you into helping me. The book is supposed to be like dark humor, and it's supposed to settle on these same themes of the patriarchal society. It also incorporates a lot of the caste system and like class in Indian society, how you are perceived and how others perceive you, and also female solidarity and working together to smash the patriarchy. The reason why I did not like this book, and it's crazy because I feel like everybody who reviews this book loves it. And so I was really excited to read it. Let's start off with the positive. Perini Schroff, she's an attorney, I believe. She's very smart. I do believe that the writing was good. It was very articulate, and I feel that the themes that were presented, the characters were really nuanced. So it wasn't like Geeta was all good just because she's the heroine of the story. It wasn't like she was without flaws. All of the characters were flawed. All of the characters were both good and bad. There weren't any, when it comes to the women especially, there weren't any women who were like your stereotypical one-dimensional female character. They were all pretty nuanced. I enjoyed the way the characters were presented. However, I didn't think any of the characters were particularly likable, and I did not enjoy reading the book. So it was one of those things where it's like, while you're reading the book, you have a few humorous moments, you're enjoying the plot a bit, but I never got to that point in the book where it was unputdownable, where I felt like I have to figure out what is going to happen. I really didn't care. I think it was because I didn't care about the characters, and I didn't see them as particularly likable or lovable enough to really feel invested in their lives. And for me, I'm a very character-driven book. I would say that this book is a little bit more plotty than what I normally go for. I normally like a book that doesn't mind meandering, doesn't mind exploring a character and the complexities of human nature. And I do think this book did some of that. But I don't know. I could not connect with the characters in this book, nor did I feel like it was a book that I had to finish. I felt like I was dragging to the end of this book. Another big thing that I feel like took the fun out of this book for me was it felt very much like being on the outside of an inside joke. There were so many words, phrases, proverbs that I simply did not understand. And I was stopping and going and trying to look up the words, and then I got no clarity on what they meant because this translation means this and this means this. And it just felt like I could not understand what was actually happening. Anyway, the book was okay. I think that the plot was there, the character development was there, but it just didn't work for me. I don't know. A book I'm reading right now that I'm almost done with is called The Big Swiss, and it follows a character named Greta who has been hired to transcribe the notes of a sex therapist, and basically her kind of becoming enamored with one of the clients, or I guess you would say patients, who she calls Big Swiss. I'm going to talk about that one more in my next video. Like, it's another one. I'm like, am I in a reading slump, or is this just not a good book? I'm not saying it's not a good book, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's doing what I thought that it was going to do. I am about 30% in, so let me know. Have you read it? Should I finish it? Let me know. So another reason why I don't normally follow the book recommendations of whatever is circulating on the internet is because my taste tends to differ. I tend to like what I like. And so I picked this book up, Upcountry by Chen Sun Lee, and I'm having a hard time. I think it's also the font is extremely small, and I like reading books on my Kindle for that reason. I cannot stand reading microscopic text. I used to be a paralegal, and reading tiny text is behind me, okay? I'm old. I don't want to read tiny text. So I may try to get this on my Kindle. Have any of you read this? Let me know. Do you like it? A book I want to read in February is called The Mayor of Maxwell Street, and it's set during Jim Crow era, and basically it's about, it says the year is 1921 and America is burning, a fire of vice and virtue rages on every shore, and Chicago is its beating heart. So set in Chicago, there's supposed to be some drama in here. It's a pretty thick daddy. So I hope I'm able to get through it. But it's a new book, and it was published in 2024, I believe. So I'm interested in reading that. Guys, don't judge me, but Verity by Colleen Hoover. Okay, I have seen so many people bash Colleen Hoover with problematic characters, and I have seen entire rant videos about this. So I want to rant. I want to rant, so I'm going to read it. I want to read it. I want to see if I like it. Do I agree with the masses or do I not? I tend to not always agree with the masses on what they like to read. So, yeah, let me know if you've read this book, if you like it. I know this tends to be like the Karen Book Club choice author. Hate to say that, but it's true, especially in my own life. They love this with Colleen Hoover. So you let me know. Is it as bad as everybody says? It has to be okay if millions and millions and millions of people are buying her books. So I want to read that this month. And I have a few other books on my Kindle that I'm interested in reading. But yeah, my reading month was pretty good, I would say. I think out of all the books that I read this month, I probably enjoyed The Eyes Are the Best Part the most. So if you have any like fiction that revolves around body horror, let me know. Maybe that's a genre I might dip my toe into, so to speak. This is authentic and real. There'll be books from the library. There'll be books from thrift stores. There'll be books that I have borrowed. It's just books that I like and that I don't like. That I can tell you like, hey, don't waste your time with this book. Everybody's talking about it, and in my opinion, it's garbage. So that's just my opinion. I'm just taking up a little space of the internet world. I'm sure everybody won't agree with my opinions. That's great. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be your own person. That's why I'm here. Hope you don't mind. Stay with me. Join me. Hit subscribe. And child is calling me right now. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye, guys.